Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awards Circuit. I'm Danielle Turchiano.
And I'm Michael Schneider.
And today we're here to talk about something really fun for winter television awards season, performers. And that is so vague and so broad, and I'm so excited we're doing this because I think it gives us the opportunity to really highlight some people that may be top of mind, but also highlight some people that don't forget.
For example, we talk a lot about Succession. We talk about Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong, Kieran Culkin, Sarah Snook. Two of the unsung heroes of Succession, especially this season. J. Smith-Cameron as Jerry. This is a character that started out very much in the shadows, not a big part of the show, but it's grown, especially in her relationship with Kieran Culkin's character. We've seen Jerry's stature grow as she was named CEO, the puppet CEO of the company. We're seeing so much of this character, and J. Smith-Cameron is having so much fun with that. And then, of course, the other actor that really deserves all the accolades this season is Nicholas Braun as Cousin Greg. Cousin Greg is a mess, a true delight, because he doesn't really know what he's doing. He doesn't know what's going on, but maybe he does. Maybe he ends up being the genius of Succession. Maybe he ends up running the company in the end. Do not forget about Cousin Greg, Nicholas Braun.
Yeah.
Watch him.
One of the shows and some of the people I want to talk about in the don't forget vein is Pose, which I admit feels a little strange considering, they just came off of some Emmy success. Michaela J. Rodriguez, MJ Rodriguez just was nominated for her first Emmy. Billy Porter nominated for a third time, won before. But the show feels a little older, and it also feels like they've gotten a lot of attention, similar to what you were saying about the Brian Coxes, the Jeremy Strongs of Succession. I want to talk about India Moore for a second because that character of Angel in the beginning of the show, the character was struggling. You didn't really know where she was going to go. And by the end of the show, they took her to such an interesting place as a businesswoman, as a family woman, somewhere where I didn't expect it to go. And that allowed India to really come into their own as a performer and really shine, I think, in a number of ways and with a number of other characters that they didn't get to interact with in the beginning of the show. So I really feel like that's an area where closer look, maybe.
Shows that maybe we haven't talked about as much but deserve some attention too include The Chair.
Our first lady chair.
Woman, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're in dire crisis.
If you haven't watched it yet, it's such an easy, breezy watch. And it's Sandra Oh who takes over a department at a East Coast college and runs into immediate issues with the old faculty, with the students. She's really holds her own comedically with a great cast that includes Jay Duplass and Holland Taylor, who is great in the morning show as well. Speaking of people who deserve more attention, but Sandra Oh, who of course we love in Killing Eve, who has done great work there, who's won some awards for Killing Eve, and of course before that for Grey's Anatomy, is great in this too. And it's a show that I think we shouldn't forget about, and also a performance that we shouldn't forget about.
That's true. I mean, it's interesting because there are so many of these shows where the show is new, the performer has been so beloved by these organizations before. We've talked about Hacks during the comedy series category, but I feel like we still need to talk about Jean Smart. Like, no one's going to forget about Jean Smart the way that no one's going to forget about Sandra Oh, but I will say for me, I don't know a comedy performance this year that I thought was stronger or more unique, just because we don't really get to see peeks inside characters of that age, certainly characters of that age in the comedy world, in the industry. Like, it was a very meta show.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that here are some voting bodies that should hopefully really glob onto, because they're in the industry, they get it.
Jean Smart makes it look effortless because she's such a pro. But don't forget her co-star as well, Hannah Einbeiner. The fact that she could hold her own against an icon like Jean Smart and really give it back. Not everyone could do that. Not everyone could play in that same ballpark, but Hannah was able to. And as one of two fantastic Hannahs on television right now, when you include Waddingham from Ted Lasso as well, it is peak Hannah time in television, and they're both fantastic actors.
I don't feel like there's anything we can say about Hannah Waddingham that hasn't already been said by us a million times, but I would actually like to highlight Nick Mohammed. I very personally connected to his plight in season 2 to a point where he was like, I think you're the only one that's not going to call him a villain. And I was like, I'm fine with that. But I think that what he did over the course of the season, and this is obviously helped by the writing, just them knowing where the story was going and arcing it out so cleverly, but with his performance seeding in little things of where he was going and how he the resentment he was feeling was twisting him and turning him into this other person. I just was so enamored with what he did. And I feel like he's a person who, a lot of people know his name because he's been around for so many years, but he hasn't been in these conversations the way that I feel like he should be.
Yeah.
And I hope that now he will be.
Speaking of someone who's getting their fair share of attention right now in social media, Issa Rae for the final season of Insecure.
Is that me? Oh, throwback me? This new look is working for us. Do you like this?
Audiences, they're very passionately invested in Insecure, and they have been over the past couple of seasons. And so I guess that means sometimes when you're making choices that people are concerned with, you also get a response.
I just think that the conversation and watching the tweets on Sunday nights, in addition to watching the show, only proves how good this show is. Like, if you're stirring that much conversation, if you're getting people paying attention and caring that much, you deserve some of these awards. And the fact that that show is going to be, airing its very final episodes through these voting periods, I have to hope and have to think will help it and help Issa specifically because, she really was celebrated before the show was celebrated by a number of voting bodies. And I feel like, it's her final hurrah as this character, as a character who was so steeped in herself that she named her after herself.
Yeah, and to watch the journey of her, of the character, of the show, and then again back to Issa Rae, who now is a superstar mogul. It's been fun to watch.
And speaking of superstar moguls, I'm going to pivot to Jennifer Aniston on the morning show because obviously a powerhouse. Her character, Alex, she's gotten so much attention for this show already. But season 2 was to another level. They put her through the ringer. The show subtly, but still more fully, showed this character is kind of villainous. She has done some terrible things in her past that she's guilty about, and it's manifesting in all of these ways, but she's still not fully opening up to, and she does get there
She's
in the end.
starting to, yeah.
But I mean, we really got to watch Jennifer as an actress go through that journey, and it's all in Alex's body language. It's all on her face for so much of it until that very end. And she's still pretty poised. Like, if I was ranting about nothing matters and maybe I'm dying, I would throw in more expletives than she did. But it was just such a phenomenal arc, I think, for her that I don't see how, people don't sit up and take more attention.
Yeah. Again, if we're talking about actors we need to pay attention to from the morning show, Billy Crudup, I mean, the fact that he plays a slimy network executive, perhaps better than, I don't know who else has played an exec just so on point the way he has. And that character who is so duplicitous, who 1 second you're sort of rooting for, the second you realize, no, he's just a sleazeball. It's genius.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, if we're pivoting back to the people to pay attention to, I want to say Margaret Qualley. Don't forget about Margaret Qualley from Maid. I thought her performance was so watchable, doesn't even sound like a big enough word, but it was just so captivating. The show is based on a real woman's memoir, Stephanie Land, who's an EP on the show, and they fictionalized so much for the character that Margaret plays, but she really tapped in to all these really hard topics of, domestic abuse and single motherhood and poverty and, having mental illness issues in the family and concerns about, do I parent my parent while also parenting my child while trying to get myself out of a bad situation? And it was another example of just so much of it has to be on her face.
Yeah.
And she's such a talented actor.
Let's talk about the brilliant casting of having Margaret play opposite her real-life mother.
I don't think we've talked about that enough. I also think Andie MacDowell is just fantastic.
Always.
But I will say that it feels like something that would have been more headline grabbing, and this, I think, is the first time we've discussed it, which maybe it shouldn't have been, and maybe I shouldn't be so surprised that it's coming up right now, but that adds another layer to what they're doing. If you really step back and think about what it takes to be a performer and get inside these characters, but then get inside these dynamics, and you're thinking about the real dynamic that you have, and do you let that influence what you're doing, or do you purposely separate it? It adds all of these complications that I think we should be talking about because that just shows how much work goes into it.
So I have one more actor for you that I think voters need to pay attention to. I'm going to be very disappointed if they don't, and that is Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus. He's someone who, you've seen around, character actor, but he hasn't really had that moment until now, and is just genius as the manager at The White Lotus, and he's so grieved upon by these awful residents and guests, And he's sort of struggling with his own issues and his staff, and finally reaches his breaking point. The show itself was a real tour de force, and that's partly because of Murray Bartlett.
No, I agree. I mean, his character had very far to fall. He had very high stakes. I mean, no one's happy to see a character, backslide in recovery, but what that allowed him to do as an actor gave us some of the most memorable moments of the year.
Yeah. Well, we shall see.
It's a lot of options, guys.
Definitely. So for now, go to Variety.com and check out even more options, see our entire coverage of the awards season, and so much more. For now, I'm Michael Schneider.
I'm Danielle Turchiano. Thanks for watching Award Circuit.